Well, problem solving can be very difficult in many different situations, especially in organization, business, corporate situations. And our next guest can help you with just that. And we're going to talk about sort of the underlying root causes of many problems that people don't necessarily discuss very often. We're joined by Ruth Sermon. She is a mediator and organizational navigator. Welcome to the show, Ruth. Great to have you back here.
Great to be back.
And I guess that's the thing. Organizations go into crisis mode. They fix a problem. They think it's over and done with, and they move on to the next one,
Absolutely.
often ignoring the root causes of the problem. How do you, first of all, even figure out what a root cause of a problem?
If you think about it, typically we like to deal with what we can see.
Right.
It's easier, right? So I see you guys arguing, and I assume there's a conflict, and I come in and I say, let me help, and we try and figure out whatever it is. Now, what I don't know, and what even you may not be aware of, some of the other factors that may have led to that conflict getting started in the first place.
Right.
So to me, conflict is actually, and people will think I'm crazy, but I think conflict is actually a good thing, because it's an indicator. It's like the light that comes on the dashboard of your car that says, you know, that little gas gauge thing that says, you may want to take a look at how much fuel you have in the tank right now. Most of us don't stick something over that and say, oh, I don't want to see that.
Right.
I'll wait and, I'll take my chances. We actually appreciate having that kind of an indicator. We often see conflict as being a bad or a negative thing. Mm-hmm. To my mind, it's actually a really good thing because it tells you where to look.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity to unearth what's really underlying the issue, the surface level issue. So then how are you differentiating between what's surface level and what's the root?
Well, here's the thing. When I go in as a mediator to talk to people, it's not unusual for people to say things like, oh, well, this conflict is about, and they will say, who gets what office, or who's parking in what place, or who's leading a project, or whatever. And so in their mind, they have a sense of what the conflict is about. Mm-hmm. The challenge is that often that's part of it, but there's typically a whole lot more. And so if you think of it this way, think of an organization as a river, and you're sitting on the beach. And you're watching what's going on a lovely summer day, and there are people swimming, and there are boats out on the water, and you can watch the birds landing and taking off, and maybe there are people fishing. There's a whole lot of stuff like that going on. And so if you were in a kayak and you were heading down the river, and you come around the bend, and all of a sudden you're into nasty set of rapids, what changed?
Well, the circumstances that you're in, right?
Right, but it's not the surface of the water that changed. It's what's underneath that changed.
Right.
So when you have an organization where things are going along smoothly, and all of a sudden you're finding yourself into a challenge or a mess or a crisis, it's typically not the visible stuff that's changed. It's something that's going on underneath. It's usually more than one factor. The challenge is that we don't tend to hang out in that underwater world very often.
Right.
And so as a result, I'm at a competitive disadvantage as an employer or a manager if I'm not aware of what's going on under the surface of the water in my organization. So every organization has patterns. They have, even to the point of being archetypes, things that are predictable patterns that you can actually see and identify, and they link together. We don't often look for them.
Right.
So one, for instance, would be tragedy of the commons. Everything has common resources.
Right.
The photocopier might be a common resource. It can get overused, it can burn out because we never thought to put a plan in place for how to manage it. Another one, shifting the burden. This is a big one, and we're doing it in Canada right now, folks. Think of the national debt.
Right.
We're spending money in my generation. Who's going to pay it?
Well, the next one.
So we've shifted the burden onto the future generations. We haven't asked them if they're okay with that.
So we need to have more communication in that regard, a little bit more planning. We just run out of time.
That's that music going. That's why
really,
I said, Ruth, we're going to have like a to be continued with you,
Absolutely,
right?
and let me know when.
All right,
I
you
would
got
love
it.
to come back and do that.
Always a pleasure having you on the show, Ruth. Thank you so much.
We teach courses on it, too.
That's right. You can go to canmediate.com to find out more information. We have a great show for you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching today. We'll see you.